This month marks 90 years since FDR signed the Social Security Act into law. With major demographic changes in the country and an expansion of benefits, there are serious questions about what the future of those payments to seniors look like. WMUR's Steve Botari sat down with AARP State Director Christina Fitzpatrick to discuss the milestone and what comes next.
So, Christina, we just hit this big milestone with Social Security, 90 years since FDR signed the Social Security Act. In your mind, what does this milestone mean?
So Social Security has been around for 90 years, as you said. FDR signed it into law 90 years ago this month, and it's a promise to hardworking Americans that they would have a foundation for financial security in retirement. And in 90 years, it has never missed a payment. So it's a remarkable program with remarkable support, and we need to make sure that it is strong for future generations.
And now I know you guys do a survey every 5 years, kind of seeing where people are at when it comes to Social Security. I was fascinated by the numbers because this is something that really reaches across all party lines, all sects of this country. Can you talk a little bit about what your most recent survey found? Because I thought the numbers were massive, they were huge.
They're astonishing.
Yeah.
So a full 96% of people in this survey said that Social Security is important to them. And also, 75% of people said that it is one of the most important government programs out there. So regardless of policy, political affiliation, gender, education level, income level, everyone supports this program because it is so important for financial security in retirement, and it also provides really important benefits for people who can't work because of disabilities or who are the survivors of a worker who has died.
I mean, is there any other program, especially from government, that you can think of where 96% of people agree that this is something that's important?
Absolutely not. I mean, it really is stunning that it's stunning that a government program would have such high support. Yeah. It's not stunning in that this has been consistent for decades that people really support this program.
And the numbers were in high 90s for Republicans, Democrats, and independents as well. I noted as well in this survey that it was growing in importance in a lot of people's minds. 67% believe it's more important than even just a couple of years ago. What do you attribute that change to people really relying on Social Security more than perhaps in previous years?
I think there's probably some amount of when uncertainty increases, people's reliance on Social Security increases, and they're glad that they know that there's this source of income that will be there for them in the future.
So that's the question, though, isn't it? That, will it be there in the future? I'm sure this is one of the questions you get asked all the time. There's been all these stories about the fact that eventually Social Security will run out. I think the number was somewhere in the 2030s. We're going to have to start cutting benefits if nothing is done. What do you say to people when they ask, will this be around when I'm ready for retirement?
The Social Security program will absolutely be there when you are ready to retire. And that is because most of the funding for Social Security comes in the form of the payroll taxes that each of us pay with our paychecks. So as long as people are paying Social Security taxes on their income that as they work, what they're earning during their working years, benefits will be paid. And the question is not whether benefits will be paid, it's how much those benefits will be. So if Congress does nothing, in 2034, the trust funds will run out of money, so that's a little extra that the program has had to try to cover the needs of the baby boom generation. Mm-hmm. This huge generation, it was going to, we needed to make it stronger. We needed to increase the money to the program to help pay for the baby boom generation. They are moving through retirement. We no longer need that extra boost, in theory. But now, if Congress does nothing, then benefits will need to be cut for everyone by 20%, and we don't want that to happen. So AARP will be working with leaders from both parties to help figure out how to make Social Security solvent and strong going forward.
Now, you mentioned the payroll tax, and I wanted to dig into this because obviously the big, beautiful bill was just passed in Washington. There's a lot of tax changes in that. What do you see either directly or indirectly affecting Social Security when it comes to the big, beautiful bill?
That bill included a tax deduction for people who who receive Social Security benefits. So if you have income below a certain threshold and receive Social Security benefits, you will have an extra tax deduction that will offset the taxes that you pay on your Social Security benefits. If you have income above those certain thresholds, then you will continue to pay Social Security taxes on your Social Security benefits. This tax deduction offsets Social Security taxes for people with middle and lower incomes, and it's not available to people with higher incomes.
Now, what about concern about the decrease in the amount that's being brought into tax revenues from the Big Beautiful Bill? 91% of Social Security's income is collected from that 12.4% payroll tax, like you mentioned. Another 3.9% comes from the taxation on Social Security benefits. There was recently some information put out by the Office of Chief Actuary at Social Security, and they pointed out that the reduction in projected income comes at a price, namely that we're going to be seeing a reduction in income, especially from the payroll tax, from like the no tax on tips and the no tax on overtime. So are you concerned that now there's going to be less revenue coming in on that side because of some of these tax changes?
That is an effect of the Big Beautiful Bill, that when you exempt certain forms of income from taxation, that's less money coming into the system. That's absolutely an issue, but it's a relatively small issue. We have bigger fish to fry, and I am confident that our leaders will do so and not let benefits be cut by 20% for folks moving forward.
Yeah, in some of the bigger fish to fry, so to speak, a lot of it is just demographic changes. You mentioned the baby boomers, and we're just seeing this ratio change when it comes to the amount of workers paying into the payroll tax versus those who are receiving benefits. I think in 1940s, when this first started, it was a 40-to-1 ratio for a few years. Eventually, 2023 got down to a 2.7-to-1 ratio, projected to be 2.5 by 2030, and then by 2050, it's a 2-to-1 ratio. So, when you look at those numbers, coupled with the fact that we're having a declining birth rate and we have net legal migration down, what is that mix and how do we make this sustainable?
Well, that's what makes the problem difficult to solve. So it's a math problem. To fix Social Security, you either have to cut benefits, increase taxes, or do a combination of the two. So the solution is simple. That doesn't mean that it's easy. So it's going to take some doing. And it's you're right that the challenges with Social Security are due to changes in demographics, in addition to some changes in income inequality that affect the system in different ways. But it's demographics, and it's just something that we need to recognize and deal with.
And part of it, too, I mean, this is now a 90-year program. When this was first initiated, when the first checks went out in January of 1940, the first retired worker benefit check was mailed. This wasn't something they were anticipating decades upon decades of payment for these people because life expectancy has also changed.
That's true. But you know what? It's a political issue back in the day. The reason they didn't have people work for 40 years and then receive benefits is that nobody was going to pay taxes for 40 years with the promise that hopefully they'd receive benefits. So they needed to show that the program was working and that people should continue to pay taxes because they would receive benefits. So it was a political calculation that makes a lot of sense to me. But it created this situation where the current workers pay for the current retirees, and when you have declining birth rates, large cohorts moving into retirement, it just doesn't work as well as it used to.
And we've also seen some of the customer service issues pop up in the last few months. There was talk about maybe closing the Littleton office, one of the 6 we have in the state. And we know that our state's very rural, so that would have meant people driving 80, 100 miles to the next nearest office. Where does all that stand, and where does the other situation stand with maybe canceling the phone situation so people have to show up in person? Kind of give us the lay of the land in terms of some of those changes that were proposed.
So earlier in the year, they floated the idea of closing the Littleton office and offices in other states. And they also floated the idea of reducing the kinds of services that people could receive by calling into the Social Security Administration. They have walked back both of those proposals. So at the moment, people can still receive their benefits or ask their questions either by calling the phone number, going online, or going into a physical office. So that's great because it would really put a lot of people at a disadvantage if they weren't able to take care of their business by phone. However, we are seeing a big decline in customer service over the past several months, and it's important for Social Security to recognize that problem and do whatever it takes to address it.
And when you say a decline in customer service, what do you mean by that?
Longer hold times when people call. Sometimes they're calling and waiting a long time and then receiving a message that says, "We're sorry, all lines are busy, call again later." People are having, if they do get to leave a message, they're waiting hours for callbacks. The websites have been crashing. So it's very hard sometimes for people to get the information they need from Social Security.
Oh, interesting. Now, we've hit this 90 milestone. When you look 90 years from now, Social Security, is it still here in the country?
Absolutely. We were talking earlier about just how popular this program is and how important it is for people's financial security in retirement. So it will continue. People will continue to pay taxes, benefits will continue to go out, and it's just a question of what that mix looks like.
Okay, Christina, thanks for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.